everybody, this is Jennifer and welcome to my channel where I talk about books, music, movies, and anything else that takes my fancy. Today I'm going to do my January 2018 reading wrap-up. So at my side here I have my handy-dandy reading journal, which I said in my goals for 2018 I was going to start putting reading notes in a notebook, and I've been doing that. So yay, go me. And so I will be able to use this just in case, hey, I need to. So I don't have a copy of this book to show you because it was a library loan, but the first book I read in 2018 was Ramses the Dam, The Passion of Cleopatra by Anne Rice and Christopher Rice. So this is the first book that I believe they've written together. So I thought it was kind of interesting to see, you know, how the style changed, because I've never read, I have a few Christopher Rice books, but I haven't read them yet. So I don't know how he writes exactly, but I did note some difference between him and his mother's writing. I mean, one is obviously a little bit more contemporary, because I find Anne Rice just a little bit old-fashioned, but this is still taking place in Edwardian England, so it's not super modern, but still pretty good. All right, so yeah, so this is the library loan. I don't have a copy for you. I finished this on, I don't know, I think it was the 11th. Anyway, no, I finished it on the 5th. Anyway, so yeah, I gave this 3 stars. I liked it pretty good. I did have, let me see. I mean, some of it just does not add up. Like, they're supposed to be, like, they just use this stupid elixir for, like, everything now. They don't just, like, use it to bring themselves immortality. They feed it to cats, and they have undead, like, familiars and stuff, and I'm like, are you kidding? And then they use them on plants and stuff. I don't get it. It was fine, though. Yeah, so there was nothing wrong with the writing. I just thought that some things in the story did not suit me very much, and I really wish there was a little bit more of, let's see here. What's his name? Elliot Saverell, the father of the man that Juliet was engaged to. There was not enough of him. And to be perfectly honest, I don't buy into Julie and Ramsey as a couple very much. He seems to, first off, in the first book, he still has this thing about Cleopatra, and now there's this new, even older immortal who he seems to have, I don't know, anyway, a weird attachment to, and he doesn't, I don't know, I don't think he respects Julie as much as he could. Anyway, but those are my gripes with the book. But yeah, 3 stars. Read that. So next up was another library loan, so I don't have this one either, but it was The Boy on the Bridge by M.R. Carey, and this is a companion piece to The Girl with All the Gifts. I didn't like this quite so much. It's kind of a prequel. So you've, in the first book, there's this, this military vehicle called the Rosalind Franklin for research, and when you see the Rosalind Franklin in The Girl with All the Gifts, it's abandoned. But this deals with the crew of the Rosalind Franklin and what happened to them. So that was interesting. However, you know, there's not a whole lot where it's like you could be super surprised, you know, because it's abandoned and nothing good, nothing good happened. So, it was kind of bleak pretty much the entire time, and I probably should have waited a little while until I was more into it to read this book, because I just kind of wanted it, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the right time, and maybe I would have enjoyed it under in a different time frame. But I still liked it. I like M.R. Carey's writing, and at some point I went to read Fellside, which is not set in the same series, but it's by the same person, so I'm looking forward to that. All right. Let's see. Oh, next up was also a library loan. This was a holdover from Nonfiction November, and it was the audiobook of Caesar's Last Breath. I think it's called Decoding the Secrets of the Air Around Us. I think that's the subtitle, by Sam Kean. Yeah, Sam Kean. I love this dude's science writing. I love it. And I liked this book very much. I did not love it quite as much as The Disappearing Spoon, which is my favorite, which is maybe my favorite, if not in the, maybe in the top 3 of my favorite nonfiction books of all time, especially the ones dealing with scientific issues. And I kind of felt this was a little short. I could have gotten a little bit more out of it. But he gives you very fascinating facts, and he wraps it up in very human interest details. So it's like, you're not just finding about things, you're hearing about people in relation to those things, and it's very good. I liked it a lot. So yeah, that got 4 stars, and I was really happy about that. Next up was, ta-da, I actually have a cover to show you for this one. Just give me a second. Next up was Raven Stratagem by Yoon Ha Lee. Sorry, you keep running into my lighting situation there. So this is the follow-up to Nine Fox Gambit. It's the second in the Machineries of Empire, I think it is. I could have gotten that series title wrong, but yeah, I really liked this one. I might have liked it a little bit better than the first one because I didn't quite have to get used to the world system they've got going. I was already into it a little bit, so it didn't drag a bit for me, and I wasn't quite as confused about what stuff meant because I already knew. So what happens is General Jadao in Sheris's body has hijacked this swarm by General Kiruev, and they're taking after a Hafen fleet. And so yeah, so they're doing that. There's also, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's the second, and I don't want it to be too spoilery. I might have spoiled enough as it is by mentioning who the characters are. But yeah, I really liked the way this ended. It's setting up the 3rd book that comes out in July called Revenant Gun. Yeah, it's so like, let's see here. There are some issues. Like, there's this one character who has like a little bit part in the middle, and then he disappeared. He hasn't been seen since then. Well, he wasn't seen before then. He isn't seen since then. So it's like, why is that in there? And it better mean something for the 3rd book or I'm gonna be ticked off. I'm not currently ticked off now. I'm just a little bit confused and a little bit like, why is that there? Yeah, and I feel like one little thing was like, I don't know, maybe a plot hole got missed, but maybe it'll be fixed up in the third, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. So, yeah, in general, I really liked this, and it took me a lot less time to read than the first one. I'm really looking forward to the third. So yeah, 4 stars for that. So next up was, let's see here. Oh, a physical book. Heartburn by Nora Ephron. It is a movie featuring Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson that they did in the 80s. I've watched the movie first, and when I saw this at the Goodwill, I was like, oh, I can read this, especially for the end scene, because the end scene is my favorite. Spoiler alert, she throws a pie at her husband. It's awesome. And so basically you have Rachel and Mark. Mark is a newspaper writer and Rachel is a cookbook writer. And they get married. Mark's never quite been able to be faithful. And so she finds out that he is in love with this other woman who's also married to this other guy. And this is her dealing with that and dealing with what's going to become of her marriage, and yeah. Oh, and did I mention she finds this out just after she's gotten pregnant for the second time. There's that. So, yeah, this is more like a 2.5, 3 stars for me. It has some moments of humor, but it's very sad. And not like an emotionally sad book. Well, it is a little, but it's more like a sad book. And at the end I was like, I am so glad the 80s are over, because I didn't like anybody. I didn't like anybody in this book, except maybe there's a therapist character who I really like. But yeah. And there is a joke in here that she uses in When Harry Met Sally. If you didn't know, Nora Ephron was the writer for When Harry Met Sally, which was directed by Rob Reiner. And there is a joke from this book that gets used by Carrie Fisher's character in When Harry Met Sally. I'm like, I've read that before, and no, I've seen it in a movie theater. So, yeah. So, she's got a very straightforward writing style. It wasn't hard to read. I just didn't really care for the characters, and despite that end scene, I didn't enjoy it all that much. But it was a quick read, 2.5, 3 stars. I rounded up because I love Nora Ephron, but yeah. Heartburn. All right, so next up after that was a reread. Fluke by Christopher Moore. This was the second time I've reread it, so my 3rd time total. I listened to the audiobook because I just got this because I was listening to the audiobook again, and I was like, I really wish I could go in here and annotate a little, because there are some funny ass jokes in here. I love this book so much. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but that whale fluke right there has the word "bite me" on it. It's a major plot point, but it's on the cover, so it's not spoiler. So you have Nate Quinn, and he is a whale researcher, and he's partners with Clay Demodicus, and they have 2 assistants. They have Amy, and who's smart and well educated, and she's their intern. And then they have an assistant by the name of Kona, goes around in a high all the time with a fake Jamaican accent. He's a white boy from New Jersey, born Preston Applebaum, but he's taken on the name of Kona and he has dreads. So one day Nathan Quinn is out and he is tracking a whale and he sees a whale with a fin that says "bite me" on it. And from there on, mysteries happen. An old lady tells very funny stories about having sex with her disappeared husband. It's really good, and I love it so much. It's a 4 stars. By the way, I'm not a big fan of authors giving their own work star ratings on Goodreads, but Christopher Moore himself has given this a 4 star, so I feel good in my assessment. Especially when they do 5 stars. Like, yeah, I know you're supposed to like your own work, but don't go rating it. Anyway, that's a side rant. Anyway, so yeah, Christopher Moore, Fluke, I love it. It's hilarious. All right. So next up was the book club, my book club book for January. The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is beloved fantasy, I think. Yeah, this wouldn't count as sci-fi. It's more fantasy. Beloved booktube fantasy. And I ended up giving it like 3.75, rounded up to a 4 star. I thought this was really good. I'm not overly fond of fantasy as a genre. I thought this was fairly decent. It has to do with these people called Origins who can manipulate the earth with, I don't know if it's a form of telekinesis or something, or if it's in their mind. I think there's this gland at the back of their head. Anyway, so either way, there's these people called Origins who can manipulate the earth, and there's this, the planet is occupied by one large megacontinent called the Stillness, and it has a lot of tectonic activity, and they go through these things called seasons, and the seasons are basically a bit like Fallout. That's how I saw them anyway. I could be wrong about that, but I saw them as times of like when there's been great catastrophic tectonic activity and it causes fallout and all that good stuff. And so they have this city, and then they have this place called the Fulcrum where these Origins learn, and they help keep the planet, the Stillness, intact a little bit. Anyway, so it deals, there's these three storylines, and the writing is really good, and I liked it. All in all, I thought it was pretty good, but I don't know, fantasy's not my main thing, but I thought this was pretty good, and I'm going to read the second one at some point. So let's see here. Oh, okay, so the last thing, sorry, I turned off my Kindle, so I have to bring up the thing again. So the last thing I read was, sorry, this is a lot of white, so I don't think you can see it very well at all. Oh, there's a squirrel outside on my porch thingy. It's called The Coral Sea. It's by Patti Smith, and it is it's about Robert Mapplethorpe. If you've read Just Kids by Patti Smith, you've read about her relationship with Robert Mapplethorpe, and this is poems and writing she made after he died. Some were like prefaces for his books that came out. One is for his, this book that came out after his death, and some were poems they wrote for his funeral and all that. So I liked it very much. It got 4 stars for me. I don't really feel super qualified to talk about poems and poetry and all that stuff. I can tell you whether I enjoyed it or not. I can't really tell you if it's good, because I'm just starting out on this and I have not read a lot of this type of material, but I enjoyed it and I'm really glad I read it, because I want to read more stuff like that in the future. Okay, so after 20 long minutes of me rambling about the books I've read, it's time for me to end it. So yeah, books, yay. This is a small portion of what I read in January 2018. And please, if you want to, you can make comments if you've read any of the stuff I mentioned on the video. I'm sorry, I forgot that word for some reason. And if you want to make comments about what you read in January, please do so. Feel free also to like, share, or subscribe if you wish. And have a nice day. Bye.